My oh my, I love YouTube because it's not mainstream media. Isn't it funny how we have to wait in this country? We don't actually accept things as fact unless they're actually brought into the mainstream narrative. I mean, there's got to be at least 60% of the US. They are literally on the sidelines, cognitively dissonant about whatever is going on until it actually gets brought to light and they say, oh, wow, this is a problem. I'm going to give you some specific examples. But where I'm going with this right now is the fact that for some reason, we now think the war on inflation is won. And there's this big call all over mainstream news, all over CNBC, all over the financial analysts, the asset managers of all kinds. They're out there with the drumbeat saying, we've got to bring the rates down now. And what is not being noticed is that the reasoning that we are not lowering rates, Powell declared it, but because we are wanting to see what we want to see. We have such big confirmation bias. The people that are controlling the narrative are so built into their biases that they're saying to themselves, well, you know what? I think he's listening now. I think he understands that he's going to wreck unemployment. I think he understands labor is going to be in really bad shape and he's going to come around and those rates are going to drop. But no. He gave plenty of reasons why those rates are still high. And if people are a student of history, I got specific charts I will show you that Jerome Powell has more than enough reasons to already lower rates based on the reasons. Right now, you have plenty of data unfolding on the labor side because that's the narrative.
Change is coming, my fellow Americans. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Let me show you what I mean right here. CNN Business. U.S. economy faces a new threat, okay? So our economy has a threat that we didn't have before 5 minutes ago. Listen to what it says. The biggest danger facing the American economy for years has been inflation. Now another problem is emerging as a credible threat in the horizon. Unemployment. Just as inflation continues to cool, yellow lights are flashing in the still strong jobs market. The Federal Reserve must now confront the risk that it's making a mistake by keeping interest rates too high for too long. And then someone down here, chief economist at such and such, it's time to cut rates. Inflation is fading as a primary focus of concern. Here we go again. Take a look at Barron's. U.S. adds 206,000 jobs as hiring slows a bit. It goes on. Cooling jobs data puts September rate cut solidly in play. Now, I love the narrative because if you go pull The Hill or you pull other news outlets, America adds 200,000 jobs isn't a slowing. It's not a cooling trend. It's strong. It's a sign of health. It's kind of fun to watch them squirm because on one hand, they have to go out and sell to everybody how dangerously close we're on the brink of disaster in our labor market. But on the other hand, no, labor market's so good. The economy's great. Economic powers that be that are running this country. Amazing. Mwah. Stellar job. So it's funny because we're in an election cycle and they got to cheer for the home team. But on the other hand, they also have to come on and sell these notions that, you know what? We're on the brink of disaster, my friends. It's no longer about cost. But I am telling you, that is not how America sees it. And no surprise to you that watch my channel, you know that I've been showing you in recent days how Bankrate had done some recent consumer surveys. Some 3 out of 4 Americans are living check to check. They literally have just enough to get by and they feel completely financially insecure. Well, why wouldn't they feel insecure? Because over the past 3 years, they've lost 30% of their buying power. And then when you look at their wages, they've actually lost 3.6% in wage income when adjusted for inflation. For the majority of the middle class, nothing feels good. And while we're all being gaslit, it's an election year. You have Paul Krugman making up words. Chief economist there, I believe he's chief economist, Nobel Prize winner at best. Paul Krugman goes out and tells us, makes up words like vibe session. It's a vibe session. It's not a real recession.
You just feel poor. It's all in your head.
But my friends, this cycle that we're in right now is history repeating itself. And it's fascinating to me how crazy it is. Because remember, in December of 2023, we are in the exact same place. You'll remember at the end of last year, we had a lot of people looking at data. Wall Street themselves were pricing in 6 rate cuts in 2024. Remember, everybody was saying, oh, the market's gonna be awesome. Let's go out and buy stuff. Because in as little as 3 short months, probably by March, we're going to start seeing our interest rates come down and everything's going to be amazing. Well, why were they saying that back in December? Well, you obviously had some labor softening. You also had some inflation numbers and some cooling in the data for CPI. Well, now we go right into January, February, and March, and all of a sudden, surprise, inflation's not under control and it's getting hotter. But is it just about cooling how fast things go up? According to most Americans, that's just not true. Check out this story. Americans want prices to fall. The Fed doesn't want that to happen. Notice the key takeaways for this article. It says, the Federal Reserve appears poised to cut rates as inflation slows and the job market gets steadily worse. Listen to this. The Fed, which is looking for more evidence that inflation is under control, will likely cut the Fed benchmark rates long before prices start falling. The central bank seeks to cool down inflation, but not so much that prices start going down. But did Jerome Powell actually say that? All right. So understand what's going on here. We're all being told, hey, you know what? Don't worry. You're not going to have mass layoffs. Then you're not going to have all these people who got laid off, then come back and try and compete for jobs at lower wages that will then in turn create lower prices. And also, obviously, a lot of layoffs will do what? It'll cause less spending. It'll lower demand. It'll cause the price of everything to drop. And what will it do to the stock market? It'll crash it. I mean, let's not say that. That's a bad word. C word, right? At the very minimum, it will cause it to suffer, okay? Nobody wants to say that, okay? So when we look at headlines on Barron's and it says, the job market is weakening, the unemployment rate is climbing, this is a risk factor because these numbers haven't been this bad in a very long time. And we have other things and other realities that we can string together, like the fact that we have some of the lowest mortgage application rates from buyers. Buyers are coming to the housing market at numbers not seen since the 90s. Okay, folks? So why? Why aren't buyers buyers? Okay, because they can't afford it anymore. Because they're worried about affording houses at these rates and still making ends meet. They're worried about the future of their job. So then you lose buyers. But my friends, here's the deal. If you're going to come out and sell everybody in the economy, you're going to say, we have a bad job situation. We have a softening job situation. We have a weakening labor market. If you're going to sell that, how in the world does the stock market build off of that? Because the funny thing is, this narrative is being pushed so that the market goes even stronger on the back of news that they think rates will get cut. Okay, this happened at the end of December. As I told you, end of last year, they came out, they start selling the notion of just rate cuts for rate cuts' sake. So here's what's going to happen. It's going to be great. The market's going to speed itself back up again. But what people don't understand is the rate cuts come because of dire issues in the economy. And my friends, look at this headline. The Fed doesn't want prices to fall? That is not true. And we have evidence from this past week from his own lips that no one paid attention to that has epic ramifications to understand exactly why Jerome Powell has left rates up as high as he has. He absolutely wants to crater price. He absolutely wants to increase layoffs, which then in turn bring wages down when people have to reapply at lower costs, which then again shrinks the economy, causes lots of inventory to land in the market. Because you got to understand, the layoffs that are happening right now is going to precipitate a lot more houses on the market in the year ahead. It's happening. It's coming. But look at something that was little reported from this past week when Powell was in front of Congress. This article on Wolf Street, homebuyers remain on strike, housing market still frozen as prices are too high. But here's what I want to show you. Powell to Congress, higher interest rates, meaning leaving the rates higher for longer. Look at this. Quote, the absolute best thing that we can do for the housing market. Read this further. Powell told Congress on Tuesday, there's no question that higher interest rates are making it harder to buy homes in the short term, but in the longer term, this is the best thing, particularly for younger people who are not yet in the housing market. Okay, my friends, how can it be better for the housing market that interest rates stay higher? How can it be better for future buyers? When he's talking about younger buyers, the people that aren't in the market yet, how can higher mortgage rates, okay, that's what he's really saying, If we keep the mortgage rates really high, you're going to have a frozen market to the point where we continue to see higher inventory, less buyers until what happens? The only way buying happens again in that environment is home prices get slammed and inventory goes up. So what Jerome Powell is actually saying is, I'm focused on the price. Now you have to understand these congressional hearings where Powell goes in front of these Congress people, they're a dog and pony show. It is almost ridiculous the things they ask him. They're absolutely stupid questions.
They'll say, is the inflation, is it a factor of just corporate greed? And it's like,
dude, do you understand the company that has to buy the materials is paying more for the materials? They're going to sell things at higher prices because they still have to make a profit or they don't exist. But listen, the core of Jerome Powell being on that stand for 2 hours in front of Congress, he was asked repeatedly, when are you going to lower interest rates? And if you look at what he said in a common thread was, I am controlling demand of things to fix the economy. He was literally saying these rates are up till we get people to chill and stop buying, so that what happens? It does precipitate layoffs. It does precipitate falling wages. It does precipitate increase of available houses that need to be sold. Yes, it will still precipitate a frozen housing market as buyers sit back and watch those houses fall to a price point where they'll become interested again. But that's the nature of all these things cycling. So Jared, what are you saying? I'm saying this. I'm saying that CNN, Barron's, all the mainstream outlets that right now are saying Jerome Powell must cut rates because of labor. Labor is a problem. Jerome Powell had the ability to cut rates purely on the labor side already. Jared, if he's not worried about labor, what is he worried about? He's worried about price. He's sincerely concerned, at least on the outside. I don't know how sincere or caring he is that people do need a price reprieve in order to just have a balanced economy where people don't kind of like loot all the 7-Elevens and basically we have chaos in the streets because the people at the bottom end are suffering. But here's the proof. Now, tip of the hat to Reventure Consulting for this find. I don't know if he created it, but I saw the state on his channel. Take a look at this. This is how the Federal Reserve has acted in the past. What you're going to see is that in every recession that we have in history, the Federal Reserve acts very early when unemployment starts to spiral. Look at this. Going back to 1989, unemployment at the COVID recession, rates were brought down immediately. You can see it was 3.6% unemployment. It was 3.6 unemployment when he cut the rates. 2007 was a bad recession, right? Look at this. In 2007, we were at 4.4% unemployment. At the bottom, it ticks up to 4.6%. The Federal Reserve says, oh man, we got to cut the rates. And they cut them swiftly and right on time. The dot-com bubble, it only ticked up 0.1. The Gulf War, 0.2. You have to go back 20 years to see a major uptick in unemployment like we've seen today. Because look at today, the current cycle in the past year, we've gone from 3.4% where we stand at 4.1% today. That is a 0.7 climb. My point is this, Jerome Powell already has more than enough data for him to make unemployment a concern enough to cut rates already. For him to stall like he is, it's not the unemployment rate that is bothering him. It is clear as a bell to see that there's only one other factor. It's inflation or it's labor. He's watching both. There's a delicate balance. He knows he's trying to control demand to affect price growth. And for us to see this level of change in the history of how we've been fighting inflation, it's clear that he's absolutely concerned about seeing more change in the inflation numbers and actually precipitate a change in price. And it's been weird because there's been a stickiness all throughout this climb. I mean, this is a 1-year climb from 3.4 to 4.1. And ultimately, most of that time, the CPI has been climbing. It's not been getting better. Prices have been getting worse. And ultimately, I'm sure he has a debacle on a daily basis where he concerns himself with possibly cutting those rates. It's going to be fascinating to see. And I'm not an economist. I only play one on YouTube. Those who are economists who play one on TV and are legitimately teaching it in school are out there saying that so far, we've gone as far as we have. The chips are already down. It's kind of like a train barreling down the tracks, and one that is going to create a very tough cycle ahead. And think about it. How disingenuous is it for those in leadership to constantly parrot a narrative of a soft landing? Okay? We are trying to put something back in the box. All the stimulus that was created, the economy shooting up. Again, I know I don't need to prove this to all of you, and I didn't plan on showing you this, but look at this. This is rent for the entire Orlando metro area. Just look at it on a graph. Somewhere early 2020, you could rent a house for like $1,850 a month. Now it's pushing $2,600. Look at the normal health of the economy. How does it appreciate over time? And then all of a sudden, we just baked in like 10 years of rent growth in a matter of 36 months. And then we're going to say, okay, no, all we're going to do is just slow how fast it goes from here. No, my friends, for us to call these ideas like we're going to have a soft landing, or we're going to pick our landing on correcting and putting something back in the box that we've never seen in the history of America. We've never seen monetary policy. And honestly, monetary policy for the history of America in the past 35 years from Greenspan on has been some weird science experiment. It is a joke. It's fake. It creates booms and busts, and it's unfortunate. But what isn't being told is the truth to you on exactly what we are in for. People are not playing it straight and saying, we have no idea what's coming. In all reality, how do you correct this without bumps and bruises? Like, just shoot people straight. But at the very least, I can tell you this narrative that we're seeing spun now that, oh, we got to have cuts soon. That is either for political gain, which honestly, why in the world would a political power who supposedly is for the little guy be a proponent of something that pushes the price of things beyond what they can barely afford already? And if it's not political, it's purely on the basis of protecting asset values. It's like, oh, we got to get those rate cuts so we continue to push asset values. And my friends, I do not understand how it's going to end well. But you tell me. Let me know, am I off? Drop in the comments and tell me what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.